welcome back to the Rhine Report. Today has seen some very interesting developments, which I'm captioning on the breaking news. Perhaps we'll get back to them in a second podcast, but I wanted to speak today about an article I just read in the British The Guardian by Adam Gabbert, who posed the question as to whether or not Trump is a dictator. The article included 2 interviews with well-known academics, one of whom was Professor Scheppel of Princeton University. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. And she responded in the affirmative, saying, "Yes, of course," said Kim Lane Scheppel, a professor of sociology at Princeton University, who spent years researching autocracies, including Hungary and Russia. Scheppel said she had been wavering on using the term quote-unquote dictatorship until recently, but said, quote-unquote, "If I was hesitating before, it's this mobilization of the National Guard and the indication that he plans to overtake resistance by force that now means we are in it." Scheppel also said, quote-unquote, "He's really planning a military repressive force to go out into the streets and the places that are most likely to resist his dictatorship and to just put down the whole thing by force." This is something I've been arguing for quite some time. Now, the other interviewee was Professor Steve Levitsky of Harvard University, who, while commenting and condemning Trump's behaviors, declined to, or rather responded by denying, that Trump is a dictator or that we are living in a dictatorship. He said Trump has the mentality of a classic tin pot dictator, but he said also that the president hasn't managed to become one so far. Well, we disagree there. He goes on to say, technically, in political science terms, no, he's not a dictator. The United States, I think, is collapsing into some form of authoritarianism, but he has not consolidated into an outright dictatorship. Now, I take issue with his conclusions because I believe that he's just splitting intellectual hairs and is making a distinction without a difference. But of course, I'm not familiar with his personal and professional criteria for describing and distinguishing a dictatorship from an authoritarian rule. He goes on. There is, Levitsky said, a quote-unquote non-zero chance that Trump could use emergency powers, as he has, in justifying immigration measures and tariffs to subvert the Constitution, potentially undermining elections. Does this man have a pair of eyes, or is he fucking blind? He goes on. But he said the more likely outcome is a more mild authoritarianism where opposition exists. Opposition is above board. Opposition contests for power and competes in elections. Let me address this liberal intellectual's arguments and assertions because they are both, well, they're ludicrous, but they're both incoherent and wildly out of touch with the factual reality. In the first place, his hypothesis is not that there is a non-zero chance, and I had to look up what a non-zero chance really is. It means there's a very small chance that Trump could use emergency powers to yada, yada, yada. It's erroneous, and he has demonstrably used emergency powers, violating and subverting the Constitution, issuing gerrymandering and voter suppression commands to his followers, threatened a third term as president, and has already effectively deployed military onto the streets of 2 American cities to consolidate power, or his power, against possible mass protests, rebellions, and justifiable civil war. And as to his suggestion of a mild authoritarianism, whatever that might be in his mind, as a probable outcome, let me remind him that Trump has already begun a campaign of prosecuting elected officials, initiating investigations against others to intimidate them, remove security clearances from respected experts and former civil servants, extorted money and services from law firms, stripped universities of grants, decimated the administrative state, created an extrajudicial personal Gestapo-like police force, arresting and without due process, deporting persons to foreign country prisons, and has previously fostered treasonous interference with the peaceful transfer of power, is ruling by unconstitutional executive orders and directives, bypassing a dormant and vacuous Congress that he controls, along with his fascist Supreme Court majority, who have already absolved him from ever being prosecuted for his crimes while in office, and having full control over a supposedly independent Department of Justice, the FBI, and Homeland Security. I think it's safe to say that we are now living in a dictatorship ruled by one madman, and that no 2 dictatorships may be fully aligned or exactly alike in each and every aspect of their origin, design, appearance, and enforcements over the people and their rights. Moreover, they almost always develop over time and incrementally, with the possible exception of military coups, could be. And sometimes they flourish as variations in a theme, reflecting and containing the other aspects of differentiated, controlled societies such as oligarchies, autocracies, and kleptocracies. Wake up and smell the roses, Professor Levitsky. Thank you, and please subscribe.